Welcome, welcome to the Commission on the State of Haiti's first Community Forum of 2025. Closed captioning is available for this meeting. The captions can be displayed in English or another language, which will allow you to view an automated live transcript of the meeting in another language. To display closed captions on your screen, please do the following. Click the button labeled Show Captions at the bottom of your Zoom window. Select the box at the bottom of the window labeled Enable Translation. When you see you've enabled translation at the top, select English as a speaking language and select your preferred language in the second menu. Click Save. Automated captions in your selected language should start appearing at the bottom of the Zoom window. Interpretation in Spanish is available for this meeting. To access the interpreter channel, click on the interpretation icon at the bottom of your screen. It looks like a globe. Select Spanish. After selecting your language, you will automatically switch to the interpreter's channel for that language. If you wish to return to the main meeting audio, click the interpretation icon again and select Off. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Regina Cuellar, and I'm the chairwoman of the Shingle Springs Band of Miwok Indians, and I'm also a seated commissioner on the Commission for the State of Haiti. I will be moderating today's forum, and I welcome you all. The Commission on the State of Haiti was established to strengthen California's efforts to stop hate and promote mutual respect among California's diverse communities. The Commission is charged with researching and publishing information on hate activity, hosting community forums, and providing resources and guidance on how to reduce and respond to hate activity. The community forums, like the forum here today, are part of that effort to offer resources to those that are experiencing hate. But most importantly, it is to learn and hear directly from you and how you can help inform the Commission in our work to reduce and respond to hate. So please, I encourage everyone here today to speak up and let your voice be heard. Together, we can fight hate and make California a safe place for everyone. I'd like to again introduce all the commissioners that are here today. My name is Commissioner Cuellar. Along with me today is Commissioner Filer, who will be helping with public comment. We also have Vice Chair Commissioner Damsky with us today, Commissioner Roybal, and our Chair, Commissioner Levin. And we also have Commissioner Salcedo with us today. So thank you guys for joining us today. Before we begin the presentations, we want to remind you that if you are a victim or witness to hate, racism, or bullying, you can report and receive free support through the California versus Hate resource line and network. Trained trauma-informed agents on the hotline will help you identify next steps and help connect you to resources including legal, financial, mental health, and mediation services. Anyone can report anonymously, and your report will not be shared with law enforcement without your consent unless required by law. Report hate by calling 833-8-NO-HATE or visiting caversushate.org. We will put the link to California versus Hate in the chat. We also want to remind you about the free services available for communities through the California Civil Rights Department's Community Conflict Resolution Unit. If your community is experiencing heightened fear, conflict, or tensions because of discriminatory practices, hate incidents, or hate crimes, the Community Conflict Resolution Unit may be able to assist. CREW offers a range of conflict resolution services to help communities effectively address hate and discrimination-based community conflict. All CREW services are free, voluntary, and confidential. CREW services can be requested by completing the request for service form online and emailing the form to crew@calcivilrights.ca.gov. We will put the contact information for CREW in the chat. The Civil Rights Department has also published fact sheets about anti-immigrant discrimination, which you can access on the CRD homepage. We'll put that link in the chat. Finally, the California Attorney General's Office has published a website explaining the rights of immigrants and available resources. We will put that link in the chat as well. I'd like to move on to reviewing the process for public comment. First, the Commission is a public body, and an important part of being a public body is hearing from the public. To that end, this meeting is open to the public and there will be opportunities for public comments throughout the meeting today. To keep an orderly meeting, please make sure to comment only on the agenda item under consideration. If you have comments that are not specifically related to the agenda item, please save your comment for the agenda item titled Public Comment on Items Not on the Agenda. To submit a written public comment, email the commission at csh@calcivilrights.ca.gov. We will put that email address in the chat. For everyone in the room today, you may submit a written comment by emailing us or by writing your comment on a piece of paper and handing it to Monica. If you submit a written comment that pertains to an agenda item, we will read it aloud or summarize it when the public comment portion of that agenda item is open and before any votes. If the comment is not about a specific agenda item, we will read it aloud or summarize it at the end of the meeting during the agenda item, public comment on items not on the agenda. If you would like to speak at the meeting to deliver your public comment, you will have the opportunity to do so during the public comment portions of the meeting. At the end of our presentations, we'll ask if there is any public comment. We will begin with people in the room with us today and then move on to public comment on Zoom. If you are joining us on Zoom, you may request to speak on an agenda item by raising your hand virtually on Zoom. To do so on your computer, please raise your hand by pressing the raise hand button on the bottom of your screen. If you are on the phone, you can raise your hand by pressing *9. In the interest of time, we will limit verbal public comments to 2 minutes per person. If you require translation or accommodation, we will grant additional time. As you consider your comments today, we want to encourage you to keep a few things in mind. Everyone is encouraged to participate. The foundation of our work is community input, and we want to encourage you to speak up and have your voice heard. We appreciate the diversity of perspectives. This forum was designed to support learning together and the creation of shared understanding. Everyone brings kernels of wisdom based on their own unique history and experiences. We can't know or understand what someone else thinks unless we listen to them. Therefore, when someone else says something that challenges your thinking, we encourage you to listen, to understand why they think as they do. Maintain a respectful space. Everyone is deserving of respect. That means I encourage everyone to treat each other with kindness and respect today, even if we might disagree. We are very fortunate today to have a fantastic slate of speakers. However, I want to note that the information presented today does not necessarily reflect the views of the Commission of the Civil Rights Department. Today's topic is community-based organizations' responses to anti-immigrant hate. Before we hear from our presenters, I want to present some data about immigrant communities in California and why we selected this topic. The experiences of immigrants are critically important for our commission to understand. As California is home to a large immigrant community, California is home to more immigrants than any other state. Almost 1 out of every 3 Californians is an immigrant. This is about 11 million people. Immigrants in California come from around the world. Almost half are from Latin America, but in recent years, the highest share of recent arrivals are from Asia. Some of the top countries of origin for immigrants are Mexico, the Philippines, China, India, and Vietnam. California is also home to over 500,000 refugees, primarily from Afghanistan, Guatemala, Syria, Iraq, and Venezuela. As a commission, we are holding this forum to uplift our immigrant communities statewide and highlight the important work to serve these communities. With that in mind, we are excited to host presentations from organizations supporting immigrant communities from across the state. We have one modification to the agenda today. ING will not be presenting, but we do have 3 other terrific speakers. We will begin with a presentation by Emily Romero from Churla, followed by Annie Lee of Chinese for Affirmative Action. We will end with a presentation by Christine Baker from FIRM. With that, I will introduce our first presenter. From the Coalition for Humane Immigrant Rights, CHIRLA, we have Emily Romero. Emily is the program coordinator at the Coalition for Humane Immigrant Rights, or CHIRLA. In this role, Emily works to support CHIRLA's mission to achieve a just society fully inclusive of immigrants. Prior to joining CHIRLA, Emily worked as a business immigration legal analysis as a researcher at the Hudson Institute, gathering quantitative and qualitative data on U.S. foreign policy in the Middle East. Emily is a graduate of Middlebury College, where she earned her degree in international and global studies. Please welcome Emily Romero.
Hi, thank you, everybody. Thank you, Commissioner, for that introduction. I'm going ahead and sharing my screen so that everybody can kind of look at the presentation that we have prepared here at CHIRLA to spotlight some of our work in the immigrant community and to discuss some of our work in the anti-hate space. So at CHIRLA, our mission is to create a community or support a community in becoming wholly inclusive of immigrants and providing people with resources to live dignified and safe lives. At CHIRLA, we have been involved in anti-hate work for a long time, almost since our inception. We have been working to support community and to create systems of networks that would facilitate people in accessing resources and support after incidents like the ones that we have seen on the news and that we see day to day through our work. Some of those date back to 1999, when CHIRLA first became involved in anti-hate work, where there was a murder of Joseph Elito, who was a Filipino postal worker who was gunned down by a white supremacist on his mail route while he was covering for another postal worker. At the time, we joined other community organizations and have been working to promote the dignity and right of safety for immigrants since then. And so as of now, we are working to build direct community outreach. We're trying to break down the stigma and denormalization of hate acts within the immigrant community. That is a big challenge that we've seen kind of arise. It's that people normalize acts of hate as something that happened, something that's normal. And we want to actually say, no, you should be able to live safe lives, regardless of your immigration status, regardless of your status here in this country. And also make sure that our communities are safe, right? Because when we have acts of hate happen, it also affects everybody that lives in that community. Not just the individual that is targeted. The goals of our campaigns are usually to encourage people to report hate and seek out help. That includes immigration legal support. As we know, immigration status can be something that hinders folks from searching out resources. They are afraid that that might either affect their possibility of adjusting their status or in the future, or they simply do not trust some of the institutions that are providing resources for victims because of their own history with institutions back in their home countries or upon arrival, because our political climate has also not lent itself to a lot of trust between community and between the immigrant community and institutions. We have received city and state funding to establish and expand community education initiatives, and I'm going to talk a little bit about what that looks like for CHIRLA and what that looks like within our communities, right? As Commissioner Cuellar discussed, California is home to a very diverse is home to a very diverse immigrant community, and we try to make sure that we are providing as much support and providing as much information without overwhelming community members. So trying to be in multiple spaces where we can support our folks has lent itself to that, so that we can provide constant information and just be there for people, not just when an incident happens, but also generally providing them information on saving water initiatives, on extreme heat initiatives, making sure that they're aware that there is expansions to Medi-Cal and other healthcare resources for kids and for families, and upon amongst that, of course, is our work in providing them resources and information on anti-hate initiatives and networks that are available for them. We're present in local consulates. These are images of some of our outreach members kind of out there tabling at either a local school, or my friend Brenda here with her I Stand With Immigrants shirt. She's at a local school fair there. My colleague Winston is at the Guatemalan consulate there in the center picture. And my colleague Grelia, she is at a local school sharing information flyers with our parents and building those community ties before incidents occur has proven to be a very valuable tool when coming into the community to support during incidents. We also have colleague Chris at a local park during a resource fair. Elizabeth here in the middle at also a local, I think it was a local fair or resource fair as well. And then we have some of our local street vendors on the right who are receiving resources from one of our local community resource outreach team members. And so what we do and what we've highlighted here at Churla is that we do a lot of direct community outreach. We are out on the street, we're meeting people where they are, trying to make sure that people see us out on the street with them, so that they can feel safe and they feel like there is somebody they can turn to when something like a hate act or hate incident occurs in the community. We also make sure that we're engaging with them through our virtual settings. This is another example of us out in the community. This was back, I don't know if you all remember the Eras tour that took over. It was a little bit of a frenzy here in the SoFi Stadium area. So one of our regional field coordinators here, Winston, went out and decided, you know what, this is a perfect opportunity to engage with street vendors, and went out and provided them with resources on our immigrant assistance line, and our information, our educational material, which includes our anti-hate educational resources and more information on hate crimes and how to stay safe when out in the community. And I thought this was just a very creative way that he really thought about, you know, where are people going to be? Where can we go out to make sure that, you know, these people are out working the majority of the day into the evening, and they may not have time to go and seek out presentations or resources or engage in with our organization otherwise. So we want to make sure that we're meeting them where they are, and promoting our education resources to them, and going and breaking down some of that stigma of reaching out to our to organizations or institutions. Some of the educational materials that I mentioned are some of these flyers that we have. We try to create informational packets with different types of materials. In this flyer, we have information on mental health resources, defining very clearly what is a hate incident, what is a hate crime, how to report. We have our immigrant assistance hotline number and 211. This is for our LA outreach. We have the 211 LA number on there, as well as the Churla number, and our address in case people feel like they should come in person. We have things in accessible languages, both in English and in Spanish. We also try to engage with California versus hate material as well, and LA versus hate material to engage when we're going out in communities that don't speak English or Spanish, right? That we have people that may have predominantly Korean, Filipino, Hmong has been some of the languages that we've engaged with. Our outreach in LA is very diverse, but also, you know, we work out of the Central Valley, San Bernardino, the Inland Empire, Orange County. So we try to supplement our informational packets with in-language materials, because we know that that is something that can be a barrier to access resources. We also have our hate crime action card. This was inspired on our Know Your Rights cards. We try to, you know, provide as much information as possible. This feels like it's a lot, but we tell people, you know, you don't have to read through this all at once. You can just stick it on your fridge, keep it with you, visit it from time to time. It has our immigrant assistance hotline number on there. Keep it with you just in case. If a friend, you know, needs this, share this with your Facebook group, with your WhatsApp group. Feel free to have these tools with you just so that you feel empowered when you're going out into the community. Say, even if, in this moment, I don't know exactly what to do, I have this resource that I can look back into and have with me. And we also, we talk about resource navigation through our immigrant assistance hotline number. That is a number where we have our immigrant assistance resource navigators answering phones Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., taking questions. At the end of this, we will also leave the number up in case anybody that is listening from our community forum would like to, ask any questions about immigration law, workers' rights, law enforcement, like engaging with law enforcement, access to public benefits, civic engagement, or generally any question that you have either about our organization, our work in anti-hate. Feel free to give us a call. If you're interested in knowing more about Know Your Rights and engaging with that type of material, we're also available. Again, it's Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. We're there working in that engagement. And yeah, our engagement has actually led us to be able to have upwards of 120,000 individual contacts just going out into the community. I know some people do better with numbers, so I'm just going to go ahead and share some numbers. I know that I shared some images. These are some of the things that we usually have out on the table. We've done upwards of 490 direct outreach engagements, just like the events themselves. And that has yielded that large number of almost 120,000. We have also directed our Chirla en tu Casa episodes, which are available through our Facebook group in Spanish every Tuesday at 6 p.m. And that has yielded 21,270,000 engagements, as well as 1,204 direct outreach referrals through our immigrant assistance hotline numbers to different anti-hate resources. This is only counting LA County numbers. So this has, of course, like I mentioned, we do a lot of outreach in Orange County, the Central Valley, and the Inland Empire. So those numbers are, of course, much greater. But these are the numbers from LA County itself that we have written down for this presentation. This is our kind of some details of what we cover through our immigrant assistance line. And these are some community partnerships that we've worked with in the past. We've worked with Stop AAPI Hate in providing translation and donations to their work. We've worked with APADRC with Wings Against Hate and their initiative there, Stop the Hate California, Disability Community Resource Center, LA versus Hate, California versus Hate, obviously, through their work in anti-hate, Mural Colors, 211 LA, in their other initiatives, like doing a lot of trusted messenger systems and programs. API Justice Alliance, CARE LA, and we've most recently worked with the Post Commission, the Peace Officer Safety Training Commission, to engage in safe reporting and provide education for law enforcement on how to take accurate anti-hate reports and hate incident reports and anti-hate crime reports in ways that are culturally sensitive and that are conducive to investigations into building community trusts. These are just some more images of our partnerships that we've done in the past. We worked with LA versus Hate to create this wonderful mural in El Monte celebrating different communities in the Hispanic community and the Latinx community and how diverse it is, but also taking the focus of anti-hate as as something that is just there after the fact, but also taking that initiative to say we should be proud of our backgrounds, we should be proud of our diversity, we should be proud of our communities and the diversity in them, and we should be able to celebrate them and not hide them for fear of being victimized by hate. This is our director, Miriam Mesa, as we were presenting on transformative change in our communities. Again, just some more images of our outreach. We worked with Immigrant Magazine to provide PPE for community members, anti-hate materials, and our immigrant assistance hotline number information. And yeah, that's just some of the work that we've been doing. I welcome questions on both what we've done in the past, what has been successful, and what we ask of the commission would be just, to support us and in continuing to expand this work. We know that the state budget is something that is a very popular subject right now. But I think that, like myself and other presenters will discuss, is that we've started to create this network of support for community members, and we want to make sure that that is continued and that we don't just leave this work behind when the budget closes. And that's something that we also welcome the community to support and to call their representatives or to reach out to their representatives and talk about the importance of what they've learned today of some of the work that we do. And some of we have received a lot of feedback of how important it is for people to have both the immigrant assistance hotline number and to see people out in the community. We've had reports taken during resource fairs and things that we weren't expecting to come across, and we've been able to facilitate U visas and other types of support because of that direct outreach. And I'll turn it back to the commission, and thank you all.
Thank you so much, Emily, for your great presentation and all the great work that your organization is doing for our communities. Thank you so very much. As a reminder, we will be taking public comment after all of our presenters are done. So with that, I would like to now introduce our second presentation, and that is from Chinese for Affirmative Action, CAA. We have Annie Lee. She is the Managing Director of Policy at Chinese for Affirmative Action and co-leads policy at Stop AAPI Hate. In her role, Annie advocates for systemic change at the local, state, and national levels that protect workers and immigrants' rights, promotes language diversity and education equity, and prevents anti-AAPI hate. Annie previously worked as a civil rights attorney with the U.S. Department of Education in the Office for Civil Rights and enforced the federal civil rights laws that protect students from discrimination. Annie began her legal career as an Equal Justice Works Fellow at the National Center for Youth Law, where she specialized in foster youth education rights, special education, and school discipline. Her passion for serving students stems from her experience as an 11th grade United States history teacher in the Bronx. Annie is a graduate of Harvard Law School, Fordham's Graduate School of Education, and the University of Pennsylvania. Thank you so much, Annie, for being here today.
Thank you so much, Commissioner. It is an honor to be here, an honor to follow Churla. We're a big fan. I am a little sick, so my voice sounds like this, but hopefully it will last for the duration of this presentation. And I, again, really appreciate the Commission for focusing on immigrant communities. I will talk specifically about Asian American communities in California. So CAA, where I work, is a nonprofit based in San Francisco, Chinatown. We've been around for over 50 years, providing direct services primarily to the monolingual Chinese community in San Francisco. And during the pandemic, we also co-founded Stop AAPI Hate. So during this presentation, you will hear me talk both about work by CAA as well as by Stop AAPI Hate. I want to start with just talking about Trump's anti-immigrant agenda to lay the groundwork of the context in the world that we're currently working in. So this is a screenshot from Just Security and just shows a snapshot of some of the executive orders from the president related to immigration. On his very first day in office, he issued almost 50 executive orders, many of them pertaining to immigration, including things that we had heretofore believed were sacrosanct, like birthright citizenship, which is codified. It's in the 14th Amendment, and that law's very settled, has been settled for over a century. But even things as fundamental as citizenship is being challenged by this president. In addition to executive orders, because Trump is president, he gets to appoint agency heads. And so the agencies are also taking action that are very anti-immigrant. So DHS, for instance, rescinded the sensitive locations guidance, which had previously prohibited ICE from enforcing deportations at sensitive locations, including schools and houses of worship, weddings, funerals. DOJ has been pushing punishment of sanctuary cities. The border czar, Tom Homan, has promised large-scale raids. And then you also see, in addition to those very real threats, just the removal of civil rights protections related to people of color and immigrants. And so various offices for civil rights have closed or have been reorganized. As stated in my introduction, I actually used to work at the Office for Civil Rights in the United States Department of Education in their San Francisco office. And that office, along with 6 other OCR offices, have received RIF notifications, although today they actually just got their preliminary injunction upheld by a judge. So hopefully there will still be some civil rights enforcement for all the students and families that are entitled to them. What's really important is that what is necessary to sustain all of these anti-immigrant policies is anti-immigrant rhetoric. Like you can't, he's able to push these through because he has a narrative about immigrants that is really pernicious and harmful. And it has a direct impact on Asian Americans because we are primarily immigrants. So 2/3 of Asians and multiracial Asians in California are foreign born. 2/3. So most Asians that you meet in California are immigrants. And over 1/3 of NHPI adults in California are also foreign born. And nearly 1 in 5 undocumented people in California is Asian. 1 in 5 undocumented people in California are Asian. Sometimes data is really hard for us to understand, so I can just like personalize this. For me, I'm born in San Francisco, but my parents are immigrants. All of my aunts and uncles, half of my 20 plus cousins are immigrants. Like, so this is very, very live for me. I grew up in an immigrant household, different languages. But even for those who think that they don't know an immigrant, I promise you, you know an immigrant. I promise you, you love an immigrant because immigrants are our nurses and our teachers, our bus drivers, our postal workers. They're a part of the fabric of our community. Restaurants that you love, takeout that you order, Uber drivers, taxi drivers, like everybody knows an immigrant. And I really want to emphasize that because I think when we talk about immigration policy, we talk about it as though it affects people over there or someone who is not like me. But actually, immigration policy impacts all of us because we all know and love an immigrant, and immigrants are in the fabric of our society and our communities. I also want to highlight some specific AAPI populations that are disproportionately impacted by immigration policies, including many of the 1.5 generation Asian Americans, particularly from Southeast Asia, who are just as involved. So 1.5 generation, meaning they came like very, very early. Many of these folks were born in refugee camps in Thailand or elsewhere, and then came over to the United States. They've only known the United States to be their home, but because they were caught in the criminal legal system, they also get flagged for ICE. And so they could face deportation to countries they have never set foot in: Cambodia, Vietnam, Laos. Over 75% of international students come from Asia. And I think you all saw the news about Harvard today getting their SEVIS revoked, so they are no longer allowed to have international students. But 3/4 of international students come from Asia. And I think this stat is really stunning and really pertinent to California, but almost 75% of H-1B visa holders come from India. It's almost 75% come from one Asian country, one South Asian country. So any changes to these immigration policies dramatically affects Asian Americans. And so the policies hurt us, but the rhetoric also hurts us. So I wanted to flag 3 Stop AAPI hate reports that just demonstrate this really clearly. So in October 2022, we had our blame game report, which found the direct correlation between politicians naming China as a cause of COVID and anti-Asian hate. And you know, other folks, including the CSU, San Bernardino Center for Hate and Extremism, has also found similar correlations. Then in this past election, we had a report on post-election surge in anti-Asian hate, primarily South Asian, given the prominence of Kamala Harris, our first Black and South Asian candidate, as well as Usha Vance. But anti-Asian slurs and threats of violence and domestic violence extremist channels found that Trump's reelection coincided with a rise in racism and xenophobia. And then lastly, we just released this report called Bracing for Impact. And we talked to Asian Americans about what they were feeling about Trump's return. And there is a sense of concern among community members that the hate and discrimination will now repeat, given this is the same president who called it Kung Flu and other things that really allowed hate to surge against our communities. And I want to pull out two quotes from the Bracing for Impact report to really show how vivid hate is, like the connection between political rhetoric from politicians like Vance and Trump, and how it impacts like real Californians, or in this case, Washingtonians and Virginians. So I'm going to read these out loud. Someone called me a Chinese peasant, echoing the words of J.D. Vance at a big box store. She said I shouldn't be in this country and need to go back to my country. I told her that I was born here and I'm not a peasant and she needs to be more respectful. She kept yelling at me about how I need to be a peasant in my own country. And then an Indian man in Virginia said, while out to eat with a friend at a Thai restaurant, a random stranger approached us, then proceeded to accost me. He proceeded to work himself into an angry froth, calling me the F word because I wear earrings and lesbian, and told me that Trump was president and I would have to go home and do Bharatanatyam in my living room. He also threatened to kick my and said that he would wait for us outside the restaurant. So there is a strong connection between what we're hearing from our community members and what our national leaders are saying. And I wanted to give you all a snapshot of the hate that has persisted against Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders in California. This is actually coming from our report that will be released next month in June, but I was allowed to give you a little bit of a preview here. So this is based on 2024 data. It's a representative sample of Californians. This comes from a project that we do with NORC at the University of Chicago every year. And so we found that hate has persisted in California. About half of AAPIs have experienced hate in 2024 due to their race. That's about the same as the year before. So it's staying at this level of about half. Hate is intersectional, meaning it crosses with other identities, particularly race as well as age, gender, class, and immigration status. Where is hate happening? Primarily, it's happening online and in-person public spaces and businesses. There's a heavy toll, low reporting, and folks need support but aren't getting it. But they're also saying that they're inspired to take action to fight against hate against the community. So what are we doing to combat the anti-immigrant and anti-AAPI hate? I would say we're doing four main things: direct services, trainings, policy advocacy, as well as community building and narrative change. I'm going to go through those very quickly now. In terms of direct services, CAA, we provide direct services. We help people naturalize. We're a DOJ accredited legal service provider. We connect people to lawyers that, if they need them, we man the San Francisco Rapid Response Line, which is a 24-hour hotline with in-language support. They verify ICE raids, they dispatch attorneys and provide legal representation, and they provide case management. We work very closely with other immigrant communities in the Bay Area. We also have provided a number of immigrant rights trainings, and these are really helpful. These are directly to community members. We've also provided training to other direct service providers. So, for instance, folks who primarily work in after-school programs in SFUSD. And we are able to do this in English or Chinese, as well as online and in person. And these trainings really help people understand their rights. Here's some examples of what our presentations look like. And you, again, will see that it's bilingual. This is the organizational protocols that we have shared with orgs that are interested in knowing what are their rights and how can they protect their staff, who might know the immigration status of their clients and things like that. We are also very responsive to needs that we see arise. So, for instance, when we saw all the F1 visa holders, so international students, have gone through a lot recently, but many of them had their CVIS records say that they were out of compliance. So then we pulled together immigration attorneys and had these incredible KYRs at Stanford and Berkeley. We also engage in policy and advocacy, including doing a number of things. And there's a number of Stop API Hate calls to action that folks can sign up for. And then lastly, I wanted to share some things that we do in terms of community building, because it's very isolating at this time, but important to be together in community and try to change the anti-immigrant narrative. And here's some things that policymakers can do and community members can do, which is primarily policymakers should condemn anti-AAPI hate. They should defend immigrant communities through legislation and resolutions. They should strengthen civil rights laws, fund organizations that provide services, and community members can report hate to California versus Hate and Stop API Hate. They can take care of themselves. They can engage. We have a number of campaigns that folks can engage on. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Annie, for your presentation and just being a trooper when you're sick. We appreciate that. Thank you. And again, thank you for your organization's work in our communities. Well, with that said, I'd like to introduce our next presenter. With us today from the Fresno Immigrant and Refugee Ministries, also known as FIRM, we have Christine Barker Dominguez. She is the Executive Director of FIRM, Fresno Immigrant and Refugee Ministries. FIRM services thousands of Central Valley residents each year, including Hmong, Lao, Cambodian, Ukrainian, Afghan, Syrian, Congolese, and Latin American families who came to the U.S. as refugees and immigrants. FIRM staff is primarily composed of individuals who came to the U.S. as refugees and immigrants, and everyone here speaks at least one language other than English. Under her leadership, FIRM became a specially designated resettlement agency and has maintained HUD certification for housing counseling. In 2023, she received the Woman of the Year award for Fresno City Council District 7. When working at FIRM previously, Ms. Barker received an Outstanding Community Service Award from the Fresno Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Unity Committee. Christine studied political science at Whitworth University, community development at the University of Stellenbosch in South Africa, and public administration at Cornell University. She's committed to building communities of welcome wherever she goes in the world, including her hometown of Fresno. Thank you so much, Christine, for being here.
Thank you so much. Can you hear me okay? Great. Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Christine. You just heard that bio from Commissioner Cuellar. Thank you so much. And this right here is a part of the FIRM staff. We are an incredibly diverse group of people and some community members who wanted to join in, actually, as I'm looking at it right now. And we have been working to build communities of hope for over 30 years in Fresno. In case you don't know where Fresno is, I always like to start with reminding folks where we are in the state. We are located in the center of Central California, right here. And most of our work is in the city of Fresno, which is in the middle of Fresno County, but our outreach teams do go up and down the entire Central Valley, speaking 12 different languages and reaching out to some of the smaller refugee and immigrant communities throughout our region. Like some of the panelists have been talking about, we also do a lot of public education and conversations about what immigration is and what it is not, and what it means to be a refugee. And one of the data points that I love to remind people is that Fresno had its highest percentage of immigrants in the 1880s and 1890s. And since then, regardless what the headlines might say or not say, like when some of my ancestors came as as immigrants to Fresno County, like that's when immigration was highest. And so we know that immigration is superhuman. Migration is human. It's what we do. We move when we can, and also migration is beautiful. And so we actually updated our name in January to include both immigrant and refugee in our name. Partly because we know that even in a family where maybe one person came as a refugee through the refugee resettlement program, their kids might be citizens born here. Their sister-in-law might have been sponsored through family reunification. Someone else might have come on a tourist visa and overstayed and is now undocumented. There are so many different ways to migrate, and the U.S. immigration system has really strong boxes that don't necessarily map cleanly into reality. And so we work with everyone regardless of immigration status. We work with folks born here. We work with folks born all over the world. What makes us an immigrant is when we are living in a country other than the one we were born in. We were, and we hope to again one day be a refugee resettlement agency. And that means working with the federal government to help welcome people to our community. We know that Fresno is relatively affordable compared to lots of other places in the state. And so we know, because we see, that Fresno is a great place to start, and the Central Valley is a great place to start over. And so we do work with recently arrived refugees from all over the world. And after one grant ends, we find other ways to maintain relationships and to continue to build community. These are just some of the pictures from the last year. You can see we do provide direct services in the form of community health workers. We have a weekly clinic in partnership with UCSF Fresno. We have a number of, currently we have lots of funding from the state of California and the federal government. And we also, we opened recently a family welcome center, I think in response to so much fear about newcomers who are coming and seeking asylum, especially last summer. So many headlines and so much fear mongering. Our response is we want to be a one-stop shop for all newcomers, kind of regardless of their immigration status. We think refugees and immigrants make Fresno home. Another part of what we did is a project called Explore the Coast in partnership with the State Coastal Commission, where we helped recently arrived families get to know their new home and get to know the state of California by taking massive road trips of caravans of vehicles to different parts of the California coast. We also we'll talk about this more later, but we do workshops, we do community gatherings, and every year we celebrate World Refugee Day on June 20th. And this bottom right picture is of a film screening that we showed earlier this year, talking about a family who had come to the southern border in 2018 and sought asylum, and kind of the long and arduous process of navigating the asylum system. One of the questions that we were asked as we prepared for this presentation today is like, what are refugee and immigrant communities experiencing right now? And so these are a few quick snapshots. I don't think I can do justice to any one of these stories, much less all of them, but here are some kind of immediate impacts. So this first picture on the top left, this is a family that is waiting for relatives to come through the refugee resettlement program. This picture happened while the refugee resettlement program was operational, but one of the day one executive orders that came out was to immediately terminate all new arrivals as refugees, as well as we were told to immediately stop. Within a week, we were told to immediately stop work on federal contracts resettling refugees. So this meant uh, we had people in hotel rooms. We had people who had been in this country 3-4 days, and the federal government tried to say, like, just stop working with them. But one of the beauties of being a local community-based organization is that we have multiple forms of support. And so as an organization, we were able to pivot and be like, well, we still have to do the right thing, even if the federal government doesn't reimburse us. And so we are continuing to serve recently arrived refugees using other funding sources other than the ones that were cut off. But we know there are so many families throughout California that their relatives, their loved ones were so close to being admitted as refugee, or maybe they've fully gone through all of the vetting that goes into being a refugee, and they were just waiting for travel to be arranged, and all of that was cut off. And so there are so many refugee families that are separated by the current administration's policies, and especially Afghans in particular. The US made a lot of promises to our allies in Afghanistan and is really right now it's really changing policy in so many ways for Afghans already here on parole, as well as Afghans who have already gone through the SIV process due to their service and loyalty to the US government and the US forces in Afghanistan, or their service and leadership in terms of human rights, democracy, and institution building in Afghanistan before the Taliban took over again. And so for refugee families here, it's really hard to be here knowing that your loved ones aren't coming anytime soon, and there's not really much you can do. This next picture is of Ukrainians. Ukrainian communities are also incredibly under attack. On one hand, the previous government, the previous federal administration was very welcoming to refugees, creating a special parole pathway and creating a way for direct sponsorship of people fleeing the war and the invasion in Ukraine. But on the other hand, all of these Ukrainians who came were only given a temporary status, and the current administration is not processing any of their applications, whether it is for asylum, whether it is for another status, an adjustment of status, or even a re-parole. None of those applications are being processed right now. We took a bunch of youth up to Sacramento for an event called Equity on the Mall. These are some of our Afghan young people, photos used with permission. And they got the opportunity to talk a little bit about what's like to be a refugee, to be a Muslim refugee Afghan newcomer in this state, in this time. And we also took some Ukrainian youth, and one of the people we were talking to just like asked them like, oh, what's the hardest thing about being in America? Straight up, this 18-year-old's like, not knowing when you're going to be deported. And they kind of shocked the poor compassionate person they were talking to. But like, don't ask questions you don't want to know the answer to, because that's a real fear. The other thing that we have seen and we are continuing to hear is Southeast Asians have been resettling in America for 50 years. This is the 50-year anniversary of Southeast Asian Americans, 50 years since the fall of Saigon, 50 years since the evacuation of the Hmong generals and soldiers from Laos, and so many folks are citizens now. Oh my gosh. Okay. And we are still seeing a lot of fear and concern around whether or not they really belong, or whether or not they're going to get sent back, regardless of immigration status, regardless of how long they've been a citizen or anything else. We have also seen in Fresno unmarked vehicles pulling single Southeast Asian elders over, asking for proof of citizenship, and then laughing and driving away. ICE denies that this is them. So now we think this is identity theft happening. But in the same way, folks are getting taken advantage of and targeted because of their appearance. And it just further reinforces this idea of like, do I really belong here? To which we as firm say, where'd it go? Oh my gosh, guys. Okay, there it is. Hold on. So which we as firms say, yes, of course, you do belong. So how we respond is, I don't know why this is not going backwards now. How we respond is we do more work, we stand strong, we stay together, we keep saying we all belong. We do in-language radio shows, we do in-language video creation as different topics, and we keep doing community events. So we do allow these, some of these pictures are from Lau Tai Khmer New Year last month. You can see us telling stories to local representatives and sharing our food with one another. This is one of our elders very excited about the iftar event and the Afghan food she was eating for Nowruz. We hope the state can maintain trusted messengers in this new budget. We know that when resources are not available in people's languages, they don't really exist. And so, for example, there's a lot of excitement about immigration services funding. In our region, there are no agencies funded who speak languages other than English and Spanish, which is a problem. The federal government is cutting off access to food to SNAP, to Medicare and Medicaid for refugees and certain other documented immigrants. It is our understanding that the state's proposed cuts to state-funded Medicare will have the same implications. So we're gonna see what we can do about that. Thanks so much, everyone.
Thank you so much, Christine. Thank you for your presentation and all the work that you guys do from firm. Thank you so much. With that, we're going to go ahead and now all our presenters are done. So we're going to go ahead and transition out to public comment. So I'd like to transition to CC, Commissioner Filer.
Thank you. And thank you to all of our presenters. Really important work and important topic that we're doing today. Just a quick reminder to everyone, we do encourage public comment and we encourage everyone to participate, and we appreciate the diversity of perspectives, and we try to maintain a respectful space in our comment period. What we'll do is we will open it up to comments for people that are in the room. We're limiting your comments to 2 minutes each. I will give you a 30-second warning to let you know that your time period is coming to the end. What I'd like to do right now is ask Monica if there's anyone in the room that would like to make a public comment.
No public comment in the room.
Okay, do we have anyone on Zoom that would like to make a public comment? That's raised their hand.
No public comment on Zoom.
Okay,
Oh, we have one.
okay, great. Why don't,
Andrea, I've unmuted you.
Hello? Can you hear me?
yes, thank you, Andrew, go ahead.
Great. Thank you, commissioners and everyone on the call. My name is Andrew Yunke, and I'm the Assistant Director of Data Dissemination for the California Health Interview Survey out of the UCLA Center for Health Policy Research. And I just wanted to provide some information and insights regarding some data we've collected about hate and some of the research that we've done so far, specifically as it may relate to immigrants. So beginning in our 2023 survey, the data for which was released last October, we began asking questions about hate incidents to adults and teens. And in a recently released infographic and press release in association with the California Civil Rights Department, we saw some of the following findings. An estimated 2.6 million Californians, around 8%, directly experienced at least one act of hate in the past year. An estimated 525,000 Californians experienced hate that was potentially criminal in nature, including either physical assault or property damage. And then some potential relation to immigration. Top bias motivations identified by respondents were race at 57%, and ancestry, national origin, or language at 19%. And then when broken down by race and ethnicity, we found some of the groups who most frequently experienced hate were Black and Asian populations at 16 and 9% respectively. So our 2024 survey results will be released later this year in October, and the data for those will be available on our online tool as well as our public use files for use by researchers at that time. In addition,
3 seconds, Andrew, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Yep.
Yeah,
So
good.
I was just going to say, additionally, we've also conducted some qualitative interviews that we'll be releasing reports on later this year as well to dig in a little bit more on some of the impacts and the longer term impacts of those who have experienced hate in California. So thanks, California Civil Rights Department and the Commission for all your support.
Thank you, and thank you for the good work at UCLA that you're doing. Monica, do you have any other hands that have been raised on Zoom?
Seeing no other, oh, one more, Joe Walter.
Okay, Joe, if you want to go ahead.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Great, thank you. Thank you very, very much for this symposium today and the very informative presentations. I learned a lot. I just wanted to ask a question, if I may, please. Oh, I'm a professor at UC Santa Barbara, and my research focuses primarily on online hate messaging. And my question is for Annie Lee, please. Annie, you discussed and gave us some very impactful examples of people who had experienced hate comments in public spaces. And, you know, those kind of hate comments, everyone knows exactly when one gets an insult like that, one knows exactly who is being addressed and so forth. You had mentioned that there was a number of complaints and instances about online hate. Sometimes in online hate, an individual is named, so you get a direct response, or sometimes we observe insults to one's race or gender and so forth. And it certainly, those are offensive and traumatic, but it's not individualized the way it is hate to hate, face to face. Sorry for the long question. I just wonder if you have a sense whether the complaints and notices that came to your agency were of which type? General insults to one's race and immigration status, or personal comments, the way the example was of the face-to-face insult the people had received.
Thank you, Joe. Annie, I will let you answer this if you have the time and the voice.
Yes, thank you, Commissioner. Thank you, Joe, for that question. I think it's a mix of both. We do track, and we've worked with partners. So, for instance, the post-election surge in hate against like South Asians that looked at specific words that we know are hateful, derogatory words against members of the South Asian community. And so we like picked up on traffic regarding those words. And so even if it's not directed at a specific person, it creates this atmosphere of hate, and it gives license to those words that we know are really harmful. And even when things are only online, I know this because I've worked with kids a lot in schools, even the online stuff percolates to what is in real life. And that's why this is a tangential comment, but it's why like social media really, really harms kids. Even though it's like not real in that it's just on your phone and it's like online, it actually does impact students in their interpersonal relationships, in their ability to study and focus in the classroom. And so that's why online hate is still really important, even if it's not face to face. So we were looking at both. And I would encourage you to look at our California report that comes out in June to dig a little deeper if you're still curious.
Thank you. Thank you, Annie. Monica, do we have any other hands raised on Zoom?
Seeing no other hands raised on Zoom.
Okay, do we have any, Kevin, do we have any emails that came in?
There are currently no questions, comments on email.
Okay, thank you, Kevin. So now I'd like to turn it over to the commissioners if they would like to make any comments or any questions to our presenters again. And try and keep it to our 2 minutes for each commissioner. I see Commissioner Roybal, if you want to say something.
Sure. Thank you, Commissioner Filer. And thank you to Commissioner Filer and Commissioner Cuellar for organizing today. This is a very important topic. And I want to thank the representatives from CHRLA and FIRM and CAA. Thank you for your presentations. I'm on the board of a global LGBT organization that lost all of its USAID funding. And those conversations were hard to have with our partners around the globe. And I say that because I want to be in solidarity with you, especially you, FIRM, around losing those resources because they impact real people and real lives. And it is frustrating. And I was feeling myself getting angry during some of the presentations about how our own government is turning its back on promises that it's made. And it's very, very upsetting. But I wonder if, and this is for any of you as a question, I appreciate the sharing of stories that you did. And I wonder, the other question I have is like your relationship with things like California versus Hate and the Civil Rights Department. And are there ways that that program or the department could be more helpful, or that we could encourage the departments that we have entree to or influence in around some of that work? Besides what's happening with the state budget, which of course I think all of us understand is a painful process, but I hope that you have had a good relationship, in particular with California versus Hate. And I wonder if there are things that we can say as the commission that will be, that program is, to me, is very important. As you can see, my background is that, are you getting what you need from those programs, or are there other things that we could be doing to support your work? And again, thank you for your work. It's very important.
So I'll open it up to our speakers. Annie, Emily, Christine, if any of you want to jump on answering this question.
I think, yes, we've loved doing the Stop the Hate work, and we've loved our partnership. We had the opportunity of hosting a listening session, a joint listening session across 3 different commissions that some of the commissioners were able to come to in Fresno in the winter. And I think one of the things that I hope we can continue, obviously I want money for FIRM, obviously I want money for staff. I understand that I'm not able to keep all of the state funding in this new economic reality than before, but something that I hope state agencies don't lose is what we've learned about high quality materials that are already accurately translated into all the languages spoken in our community. And so I think California versus Hate has done a good job of creating really cool posters. And then I don't know what the new world is going to look like in the new budget, but I do hope that we can still receive materials that are high quality like that to share and to even use for staff development and to continue to share in these communities, because like the hate's only growing as the money shrinks. That's what I would say.
Emily or Annie, do you want to say anything?
Yeah, I think that, as we talk about how federal funds are being pulled and agencies are kind of restructuring the way that they're engaging with our communities, I would say it would be very helpful for CRD to take a little bit more of an more active role, especially with the crew division, in filling in the gaps that the Community Relations Service from the DOJ would have taken, right? I know that Dr. Levin has been a part of some of our panels in the inland communities, but we've had a really good relationship with the Community Relations Service in creating and advocating for California versus Hate to be more present in some of the areas that may not have as much engagement with California versus hate. That's, the high desert, Coachella Valley, Fresno, that area, the Central Valley, even up north in Santa Rosa, Petaluma, that area where there's a lot of farm workers as well. And engaging with those communities, it would be very helpful. I know that, nonprofits are sometimes localized, and some of our organizations, community-based organizations, are community-based, right? So it's really hard to kind of have, the same reach that perhaps the Civil Rights Department might be able to have in engaging with local partners, even up north or in some of these areas, either working with the city or with different initiatives like the Inland Counties Against Hate initiative that Chirla has been working with. So yeah, just trying to fill in some of the gaps that CRS is going to be leaving behind, and trying to promote California versus hate beyond what we have already, so that we can continue some of this work and expanding those networks in whatever way we can, right, with the limited budget that we foresee.
And I would just add on to what Emily said too, that I've been referring, well, first, I love California v. Hate. We refer folks there all the time. We just referred some parents in the East Bay when there was a racial incident at a baseball game to California v. Hate, because there's credibility in a state agency providing mediation, and that is exactly what is needed in this particular situation. I think we need a trusted person that gets these two sides to talk, because I think they're actually much closer than they think they are, because everyone actually just loves their kids and wants the best for their kids. So there's a lot of fertile grounds there. But with the rollback of federal civil rights, I've been telling everyone to go local and state. Like, there's still state protections, there's still local protections. And so when incidents are happening in school, I'm saying, like, file a UCP with your school. You can contact CDE, California v. Hate, Civil Rights Department. But it also means that, as we've seen in previous Stop API Hate reports, when government is not responsive, when people reach out, then you lose trust. And so what I worry about with the rollback, the federal and state budget situations, is that you don't have the capacity to meet the community where they are. And I hope that we can find some way to stave off the cuts. And the last thing I would say is that, I understand the fiscal reality, but it's also true that you either pay now or you pay later. If you cut Medi-Cal for undocumented people over a certain age, you are begging for a public health crisis that will devastate our state later on. So, these are budget choices that we make, and they're really difficult, but there is always going to be a cost to be borne, and it's just a matter of figuring out who do you think should pay that.
Thank you. I'm going to let Commissioner Salcedo go next, and then we'll let Chair Levin close out our commission comments, okay? Commissioner Salcedo?
Yeah, thank you so much, Commissioner Fowler, for the opportunity. I wanted to express my gratitude and appreciation to all the community partners who gave us this amazing presentation and knowledge for us to really learn and understand the issues that our communities are experiencing at the moment. I wanna just ask to any of the presenters, kind of similar to the question that Commissioner Roybal asked, in terms of advocacy efforts, in terms of accountability efforts that are happening to whether it's local or state elected officials, in what's happening in our communities, and what type of investment is happening to ultimately eliminate the hate that all of our communities experience. And being the statistics, right, that we just heard, how many of our immigrant communities who are South Asian, or, how many, just immigrant communities as a whole in the state of California, the amount of us who are living in this in the states And I'm just wondering what, what policy efforts, what accountability efforts are happening for organizations, or any possible recommendations that they may have for us to consider and mobilize other communities as well.
Thank you. I'll let any of the panelists take that. Annie, Christine, Emily, anyone want to respond?
I think that, we talk a lot about advocacy, and we've discussed, as community-based organizations, we don't take any political stance usually when it comes to these things, right? But it is important to remind folks kind of the people that they're serving, and making sure that we don't take that pressure off, even as they've taken on these elected seats. For our elected officials in particular, making sure that they remember the campaign promises that they made, the communities that came out to vote for them, and the reality that, you do serve the communities that you're taking care of, and that Annie, like Annie pointed out, you need to invest in the communities now before something worse down the line happens, and then you have to take on that role that is going to be a much more heightened situation. In terms of agencies, I think that it's very important to hold our law enforcement agencies accountable in their collaboration with federal law enforcement, and making sure that the rule of law is being followed, that they are not engaging with ICE beyond what is lawful, because it does break apart some of our community trust. We've had folks, and making sure that they know that communities are paying attention. We had incidents where we had calls, like Annie's organization or CAA, and Annie mentioned, they man the rapid response line in San Francisco. Trela is manning the rapid response line here in Los Angeles. And one thing that we've noticed is that when we have U.S. Marshals serving a warrant alongside local law enforcement, community members are calling afraid that this might be federal immigration raids, right? And we have to make sure that that law enforcement agencies and that elected officials are aware that people are paying attention, and people are basing their actions and their community responses on that, right? They're making plans about either leaving the country. People who have been here 20 plus years, who have raised their children here, who have invested into our communities, are considering out of fear choosing to leave, right? And making plans. We've received calls to our immigrant assistance line being like, what's the easiest way for me to leave the country? And our community, and as community-based organizations, that brings us, a lot of sadness, because we know that these people are people who are hardworking, people who are, active and fundamental part of our communities. And it's just making sure that we're holding our elected officials accountable to the promises that they made, that they're aware of the communities that they serve, and to hold our agencies responsible to uphold the law, right? We're not asking them to do anything outside of what is mandated to them. It's just making sure that they're upholding the law as much as possible within the state of California is what I would recommend.
Really valid point, Emily. Thank you. Annie, did you want to say something?
I can add to that because it's a wonderful question. So much of this hate stems from the top down, as I demonstrated in my report, and it's the rhetoric of our president, it's the policies of our president. And when I think about how to fight back against that, there are three things that I think of. First are the courts. And so you see like our AG as well as other AGs fighting back and trying to use the rule of law to try to stem some of the hateful policies. And that's very important. I am a lawyer. I believe in the rule of law. But we also have seen this president not follow judicial orders. I mean, Kilmar Abrego Garcia is still not reunited with his wife and children. And so there's a limit to like the rule of law. The second defense is local and state governments. And I think California holds a special responsibility as a state that is the fourth largest economy in the world. It is just so diverse and powerful. And I think it's just very, very important that we not that we not give up and that we not capitulate. And because all that it takes for him to win and these policies to win is for us to give up or for us to be like some of these law firms and just like, try to stay on this person's good side. There is no that is a fiction. Like there will always be another demand, another demand, another demand. And so we have to stick up for California's values, California's laws. As Emily said, we have a number of great laws on the books, so those require implementation. And I really want to shout out CRD for implementing, for instance, Welcome In, which is this incredible, innovative pilot that works with businesses across the state to create a welcoming environment for shoppers, but also staff. Like, I love this idea, not just because Stop API Hate sponsored this bill, but because, like, when we talk about how do we change hate, it's really in our own communities. And so this is like just a wonderful example of the state providing the resources because good laws exist on the books, but how do you make sure that your shopkeepers know about it? And then how can you highlight businesses that are willing to take on this voluntary training so that shoppers can, vote with their feet and patronize businesses that really care about their safety? And so love this program, really want to support things like that. And then the last line of defense against authoritarianism is civil society. And that's why this administration is attacking civil society. Stop API Hate is one of 200 organizations that got our DOJ grant withdrawn. And actually, we just filed a lawsuit, a class action lawsuit yesterday to represent these 200 organizations that have also had their funding stripped. And it's just really important to fight back. And so same thing as the local and state levels have to fight back, but our civil society has to fight back. And really is a time for everyone, philanthropy, folks in government, like everyone at every level to really stay united and not let them like pick us off one by one.
Thank you. Thank you. That's a great breakdown.
Thank you so much.
Christine, did you want to say anything?
I guess just I think I do think we have to just continue to tell stories and continue to keep talking about why we all belong here and why, like, in California, like, you're here, you belong. And I think some of our state partners have been really straightforward and open about that and being like, yeah, once you're here, you're ours. Like, that's it. Like, that's all there is. And I also think when it comes to framing, it's really hard to learn how to not just like react and be like, that's not true, that's not true, and that's not true. Because like psychologically, our brains just like reinforce the wrong message when someone just says, well, not that, because we just keep thinking about the original thing. And so I do think something that commissioners and other folks in leadership can do is just tell positive stories that link into other positive frames without unnecessarily linking to the negative stories or linking to the negative rhetoric at the national level. And it's really hard to do because like we see the headlines and we're like, that's not right. Who thinks that? That's crazy. La 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 la. But the more we can just keep telling the story of California, which is that our success and our everything like is because we are a welcoming and inclusive state and a welcoming, inclusive economy. Like the more we can keep saying that, I know and I have seen that courage is contagious and courage is more contagious than fear, I would say. And so, yeah, California's for everyone. That's right.
Thank you. All right. Chair Levin, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you. Are we sure that no one else has any questions or comments?
Not right now. We will move into comments that are not on the agenda after you.
All right. Fantastic. Thank you so much. I think it's so interesting. We heard about intersectionality and we heard about Joseph Aleto's murder. His brother came to our university, spoke to my class. And what is so interesting, whether it was that terrorist killer or the one who carried out the Tree of Life massacre. Both were anti-immigrant and racist in addition. We all stand together. And with that, I want to just thank, just as a preface, before I go into just the two questions I have, is to thank the governor of our state for saying that he was horrified by the shooting near the Capitol and saying that anti-Semitism has no place in the United States or anywhere, and his condemnation of it in the strongest terms is exactly what we need from the highest level of our state to just a volunteer schnook like myself. But what it says to us, whether we have someone who is transgender, or we have someone who is Jewish, or Muslim, who is victimized by hate, we stand together because that's America. I heard Ms. Barker talk about how folks don't feel that they belong. Being the only former lawyer on the panel, let me just give people Exhibit A and B. George Washington, I have always hoped that this land might become a safe and agreeable asylum to the virtuous and persecuted part of mankind, to whatever nation they belong. John F. Kennedy, everywhere immigrants have enriched and strengthened the fabric of American life. I don't have time, but I want to make sure that we convey to these doubts that bubble up because of the tsunami of bigotry and xenophobia, that when we have a bully pulpit here in California and someone has an opportunity from the highest level, which I thank you, Governor, to even myself, that we stand together, and I do. On that note, I want to thank everyone who's spoken out against not only anti-immigrant violence, but this horrible scourge of anti-Semitism, both of which have no place in our society. I wanted to ask Ms. Lee, because if there's one skill that Harvard law grads have, it is making Stanford law grads look not as good as they think they are. So I have spoken out in the last several meetings during my time, and we have put in a civil liberties agenda, permanent now, as long as I can, have a civil liberties section. So what I want to ask you is, I have criticized the vacuous use of the Alien Enemies Act because, among other things, we're not under invasion, and there's something called due process and habeas corpus, but I'll leave that to some of South Dakota's best legal minds. With respect to the Alien Enemies Act, am I wrong? And with respect to the Immigration Act of 1952, which is being used to summarily take people out under this broad discretion that presidents do have, but just on the basis that someone, as I mentioned, Ms. Ozturk, who, by the way, was released after I brought her case up, could you give me your opinion on the use of both the Alien Enemies Act as well as the Immigration Act, and whether you concur with me that they are being abused in a way that was not intended by the framers, or please take the opportunity to make me more humble?
Chair Levin, I agree that both of those laws are being abused. For those who don't know, the Alien Enemies Act is an old law from like the late 1700s, the Alien Sedition Act, and it's only been invoked a few times, like 3 times total. The last time was during World War II to incarcerate Japanese, German, and Italian nationals without due process, and that created the groundwork for then Executive Order 9066, which rounded up 120,000 Japanese Americans in internment camps throughout the American desert, like the West area. And you know, when we talk about due process, going to Christine's point about like storytelling, it's, you know, I've talked to a lot of people now, and it's really hard to even use the term Alien Enemies Act. That already, I mean, those terms are weird. Alien makes people like think that people don't belong. So really, it's an outdated wartime act, and we are not in a time of war. And this alleged gang is not invading us, and so it is inappropriate to use this. But it's also hard when you explain, people are entitled to due process. Most people don't understand what due process is, so it's important to break it down for folks. Due process is the opportunity to be heard. The government has to prove a case, and then you have a chance to respond. But for these Venezuelan nationals who were rounded up, many of them were taken out of their beds at 2 or 3 in the morning. They were forced to sign documents they did not understand because they were only available in English. Then they were put on planes, and then they were shipped to El Salvador, to a supermax prison in El Salvador. And that is not fair. It's just not fair. And the reasoning from the Trump administration is that, they had tattoos. I mean, you have to have an opportunity to explain in the court of law what this tattoo is. Like, you have to be able to weigh evidence. Otherwise, this is just totalitarian. And same with the 1952 Act. Like, there's such a perversion. And I think that this is really, really important too, because they are taking the most fringe legal theories. Like it's just really stretching the definition of words. Like, what does wartime mean? Invasion mean? Like, what is subject to the jurisdiction thereof? They are taking words and really stretching them to mean things that that was not the intention of the authors, and it has not been how the High Court has determined these cases, these issues, for over a century. And yet we spend time and effort fighting this, and that is what they want. They want us to expend all of this time and effort fighting these cases that we know we are right on the merits. And it's really challenging. And they do that while they threaten our 501c3 status, while they strip funding, while they make funders really, really nervous to touch anything DEI related. But it's also why it's really important to fight back, and really important to figure out, how do we talk about these issues with everyday people? How do I talk about the Alien Enemies Act to my mom? She doesn't know what this is. And so how do we do that in language, with just everyday people? And I think that that's a struggle that I really want to encourage everybody to think about, because I think we do all have a responsibility to talk about these issues with everybody that we know.
Thank you so much, because one of the things you said, and I will be quiet after this, but you know what? Objective, legal, and quantifiable information is important for a free society. And we have some of the top people in our state here today. You specifically reference a lack of respect, basically, for precedents. In the United States versus Wong Kim Ark in 1898, the child of people who had come from, in this case, China, was deemed an American citizen. Now, there were certain specific permutations from that, but that broad reading has been accepted not only at that time, but back to 1868 when the 14th Amendment was enacted. So you feel, as I do, that we are seeing a disturbing departure from precedent with respect to both these statutes, but also with Supreme Court rulings. Thank you so much.
Thank you both for that great discussion. What I'd like to do now is I would like to move into public comment on any items that are not on the agenda. I also noticed that in our attendees, we have people from different organizations. If you would like to use this moment in time to share any of your own thoughts or experiences of what's going on in your communities, please just raise your hand, and we'd love to hear from you. So if there's anyone that would like to comment on something that's not on the agenda. Do we have any hands? I can't see. Monica, do we have anyone?
Yes. Gustavo, I am unmuting you.
Great, thank you. And I'll give you a 30-second warning.
Hello, can everybody hear me?
Yes, yes.
Hey, Christine. Hey, everybody. I want to just first and foremost thank the Civil Rights Department for even hosting something like this as an individual who is 33 years old and who has been in this country since 1993, was undocumented, who has the sliver of privilege known as DACA, and who is trying to support my community, our community, as best as can be in these trying times. I want to acknowledge that, and I want to know that, yes, things are grim, but I also have the incredible consolation to know that I have great allies that are standing alongside and here to support people like me, people like my family, and I can't express enough how much that means to me. So that was first. And then I want to publicly commend Chair Levin for his always enthusiastic commitment to keeping us engaged, because we need people that are unabashedly and without any type of reservation to stand up, honestly and truly. So with all of that being said, I will touch upon Christine's point about sharing stories. And this is why I came to the realization a couple of years ago that, yes, I've endured enough trauma and stigmatization for being undocumented, for having, my skin be a darker shade. But if people don't hear and they don't listen to who I am as a person, then they'll never have the opportunity to show up.
30-second warning. Sorry, I didn't mean to.
No, you're fine. To stand up and stand up with me. And the same goes for other undocumented individuals who are maybe not ready or haven't reached that point yet. But it is of the most importance to be able to express ourselves so that we can be seen and we can be acknowledged. So thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you. You're the voices that we need, and the voices why we're having these kind of meetings. So thank you. Is there anyone else that, Monica, that has their hand raised?
Yes, Roy?
Roy, you're on, and I'll give you a 30-second warning.
Awesome. Hi, folks. Good afternoon, commissioners. My name is Roy Tongalava. I've recently completed my Master of Public Affairs at the Goldman School of Public Policy at UC Berkeley. And I recently finished my capstone project, which focused on responding to crisis, strengthening California's anti-hate infrastructure. And so I used a mixed methods approach to look at publicly available data, including administrative data, to look at where hate crimes and hate incidents were most prevalent since 2018. And I also looked at the Stop the Hate program, really looking at how state funding had responded to the rise in hate over the years, and how well the state has administered resources and ensured that they reach the communities most affected. And so I had lots of findings, and I even constructed a county level hate crime vulnerability index, which scored counties based on 4 different indicators of how vulnerable communities would be to hate crimes and hate incidents. And overall, there was a total of over $500 million in anti-hate investments to date. And I developed a framework for policymakers as well as local communities and local government to continue anti-hate efforts. And so I did use a lot of what the Civil Rights Department and the Commission had released over the past 2 years, including the CHIS data. So thank you so much. The CHIS data was very helpful as well. And so I'm happy to share this report with you all.
30 seconds, Roy. Sorry. Keep going.
Again, happy to share this report with you all. And my hope is that this work continues. I think the work that the commission is leading is just so critical right now, especially as our most vulnerable communities continue to be hit hard from hate crimes and hate incidents. And so I just wanted to share this project and that the work you're doing is having real-time impact. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for the work you're doing.
Commissioner, could we just give him an email that he could send his report to? when we get to the next-
I was going to suggest, and maybe Alec, if it's correct, to the our Civil Rights Department.
Yes, thank you, Commissioner Filer. Roy, we'll send you we'll send it to everyone. We'll send the email to everyone.
Yeah.
About the commission. So thank you.
Yeah, because yes, thank you. Yes, very valuable information to have. Any other, Monica, any other hands that are raised?
Yeah, we have one more. Yadira?
Yes, hello everyone. My name is Yadira Pineda. Pronouns are she, her, hers. First off, just want to say thank you to everyone for all the work that you're all doing. I know this is a very difficult time, but I definitely appreciate everything. I am a senior human relations consultant with LA County Commission on Human Relations. So I did just want to let everyone know who's on the call that we take reports of hate crimes and hate incidents. You could do this by calling 211 or online at laversushate.org. And then I also just wanted to let you all know that we released our first hate incident report, and you can find it online on our website at hrc.lacounty.gov. And this will also be an annual report. So we also do partner with community-based organizations who want to send over their reports. So we're in the middle of analyzing 2024 incidents. So if you're interested in partnering with us, please feel free to reach out to us.
Thank you. I live in Los Angeles, and I'm always proud of the work that your commission does. So thank you. Is there, Chair Levin?
I know you don't want to hear from me anymore, but this is really important. Grace Lowenberg, who's been a beloved member of the LA County Commission on Human Relations, is stepping down and retiring. If I did not give her a congratulations and a shout out, I would never be allowed past Seal Beach. So let me send the congratulations out to Grace Lowenberg, who has done so much for so many people, not only in the county of Los Angeles, but throughout the state. And special thanks to my dear friend Robin Toma, who continues to run that operation.
Great, thank you. Any other hands that are up, Monica?
No hands up on Zoom.
Okay. So I think, and I guess the only last thing would be, Kevin, if there's any emails that have come in on comments that are not on the agenda.
No comments or questions by email.
Okay. Then I think I turn it back over to you, Regina.
You too. Thank you so much. Thank you guys for all of those great questions and all. Again, I think it's just so important that, you know, everybody's here today and
Commissioner Cuellar, can I interrupt you for just a second?
Of course you can.
I just want to, again, I mean, we have done a number of community forums that you Commissioners Filer, Commissioner Cuellar, that you have provided key leadership around. I mean, we've done a lot of really wonderful ones. This by far has been my favorite. It is, I mean, especially given the time that we're in. And so I just want to say again, thank you to the panelists and to the both of you for making sure this happened, for shepherding it. Was a very important discussion to have, given everything that's happening. And so my heart is full from our conversation today. And I just want to thank you again. It was really, really wonderful.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Roybal. And I agree. I think this is one of the most important ones, community forums we've done. And again, thank you all the presenters. And again, thank you to the CRG staff for all the help that they've done. We couldn't do this without all of you guys. So thank you so much. But most importantly, thank you to all the our community members that have joined and really letting us know the issues on the ground. And, you know, we love hearing from you, and, you know, this is what makes us do our work. And, you know, so again, thank all of you guys for being on today. And with that, as a reminder, if you are a victim of a hate crime or incident, people contact California versus Hate or see the additional resources in the chat. So everybody, please spread love, not hate, and we'll see you guys soon. And this meeting is adjourned at 4:47. Thank you all.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.